Look here. Wait.
All right.
Poke right there.
Sorry, guys. Hopefully you can all find us back here. We had to restart, and
Can I still hear you?
no, nobody's on yet because we lost everybody. Because when they come on, it will.
It's gonna play for them.
Yeah, this is going to replay, but they're probably all still waiting. Like, where did he go? And he's not coming back. So
we're gonna. Hey, one viewer.
Yeah. So sorry.
Who are you?
Guys, come on.
Okay. Yeah,
It's Corey. It's Corey and Brock.
Hey,
all right.
Corey.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties between my daughters. You know, Father's Day, we got to give them a little bit of a break.
Get your finger out of my face.
I didn't get to spend a ton of time with them. And
clear.
All right. So sorry about that. Hey, Matt, I lost all of your questions now too. So I know you had them written down. So just send them my way. And let's see. We were going to have a special guest tonight, but I don't know if
he won't join.
Well, no.
Did he respond?
No. But that I'm not talking about my dad. I invited my dad to join us, but I doubt if he will. He's probably hanging out at the pool with my brother and sister and their kids, having some Bloody Marys or Bud Lights. But I also invited Mike Mandel, who's the owner of Charlotte Boat Repair, and he has been a. What is wrong with you, Whoop? That might be the first time that Mike Mandel got whooped, I bet. But he's a really experienced technician in Charlotte that works on Lake Wiley. He does a great job. He did some videos with me previously. Did a couple more. No, Mike, not Mike next door. Mike Mandel.
Oh, I thought you invited Mike.
It's the 240 Sun Deck we went out on the other day. Oh, you weren't with us. So anyway, all right, we're back. Hopefully everybody finds us. Matt, if you join in, know that I did not, your questions got lost. So ask those again. I apologize, but my daughter really wanted you to see the lake. And it was me that unplugged the microphone.
Yeah. So it wasn't my fault.
Yeah. It wasn't her fault. It was
his.
Me, but she is representing some Boater Secret Weapon sweatshirt, and so having a good time there.
Hey.
Corey, thank you for finding us back here. Brock, hope you had a good Father's Day. Corey, I don't know if you're a father or not, but happy Father's Day to you. John, John, I am in Tennessee right now. We're on Lake Loudon, just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, at my in-laws' place. Some more. Lake Loudon is big. They can't identify us on Lake Loudon. A Boater Secret Weapon pink shirt. All right, that's good. Okay, you guys are getting a little too unruly. So, yeah. And the best boat captain shirt, which we don't have on our store yet, but we have that graphic made up. We just need to put it on the store. So this is my oldest. This is my oldest, and this is my youngest. So they wanted to make Happy Father's Day super happy for me by helping out on the live. Ralph, welcome. Ralph, I recognize you. What are you going to do?
You have to give me something.
I have to watch out for this one especially.
No, Mom.
Hey, stop. Okay, Emery.
Sorry.
Oh, all right. They gave me my Father's Day card. So they want me to open my Father's Day card live on the air, I guess.
Emery.
So we'll see how this goes.
This was all my idea.
We'll get to questions.
I was the one who picked that.
Okay, all right. So while I'm opening this, Savvy Semblant asked you, what's your favorite boat trip with your dad?
None. I don't like my dad.
Stop, you knucklehead. From both of us, Happy Father's Day. All right, Abe, go ahead and you answer.
I like going on Grandma and Papa's pontoon.
Grandma and Papa's pontoon.
Uncle Steve's
I like when I made like the last time we went there.
So the Grandma and Papa's pontoon and Uncle Steve's speedboat is down at the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, and it's a tri-tune, South Bay tri-tune with the 150 Merc on it, which is her and me speed. This one likes to go on my brother's 36-foot twin engine. I think it's got 8.1 HO Mercruisers. And that boat run, like it doesn't go slower than 40. If you're just running and we're down there, I run it some, and it goes 40 or faster. That's it. And that is what she wants to do. But here's what my daughter said. I love you from my youngest, Dad, for everything you've done for us, the thoughtfulness you've shown, and more than anything, for the love you share. Thank you. You're a wonderful father and friend. And then my oldest says this.
No.
I know.
That was just
imprinted
on the card.
I know. This is from Emery. I love you, from the youngest. And then my oldest says, I love you so much, even though I may not show it.
I didn't even write that.
Because
she's always grumpy.
Yeah, because she's 12. So, all right. Thank you guys. But you got to go now because you've been very distracting and I love having you. But now you got to go.
You should
Okay?
answer this question
I
with
love you.
me.
Okay. All right.
Answer that one.
This one
Right
here?
there.
Okay. All right. Ben says, if you get a power boat someday, would you stay away from twin engines? No, Ben, twin engines are not more problems. Well, I take that back. It's twice as expensive to maintain. It's going to be not twice as expensive to run because you don't have to run as much RPM. So unless you're just running balls out, you are not going to run twice as much fuel. But you do have twice as many things that can break other than, bilge bumps and stuff like that. For me though, I'm a tri-tune with the 200 horsepower, 150, 200, 22, 24-foot boat is perfect for my style. I'm not a big go fast boat. My brother, on the other hand, boating at the Lake of the Ozarks, he loves the Envision. That was his dream boat when they got it. Oh shoot, he's probably had that thing for 8 years or more. And but that's just not my style. I run twins. We've got a twin engine best boat captain program that I filmed on a 35-foot what was it, a Four Winds, I think, a 35-foot Four Winds cruiser with twin Volvos. And that's fine, but I like having the big open space all out in the sun. Overnighting on the cabin for me at this stage of my life with these two knuckleheads that you just saw, it's not really conducive. We're not going to overnight on the boat. The way we use it is, hey, let's have plenty of open space. The pontoons, I don't think there's much that runs smoother on a tri-tune on a lake, on an inland lake. 24-foot tri-tune, 25-foot tri-tune is going to handle any of the roughest water and be super, super comfortable. So that's what I enjoy. All right, Ben asked another question before remaking my question. I'm interested in buying a power boat someday. I've liked Baja since I was a kid, but a lot of older people talk to say, don't get a Baja. Why would that be? I've got friends that have had Bajas. I don't think I know anybody that's got one right now. But no, they're not top tier. They're not a Fountain or at that level of the go fast boat. But the Baja is a good mid-tier boat. Here's the thing: when I start talking about performance boats, here's my thought when you're looking pre-owned, if that's what you're looking, is and I'm not going to do a lot of screen sharing because I just have my one screen up and it's much more difficult. But Baja, let me see here. Iconic Marine. So Iconic Marine Group still owns Baja, or bought the brand. I don't know how long ago they bought it. They've got Fountain, they've got Donzi, and they've got Baja. And Baja is their mid-tier boat. I wouldn't say it's a value boat by any means, but it's mid-tier for sure. But here's the thing: when you go with performance boat like that, the person that buys the Baja over buying the Crown Line or over buying the Monterey or the buying the Sea Ray or something like that, is they're buying that Baja because it looks sweet and it's probably got a bigger engine in it, and the hull is designed to go fast, which means that they're running that boat harder than your typical Monterey owner or your Sea Ray owner or your Crown Line owner. They're going to run that boat harder. They may have the mechanical skills to maintain it well, but that boat's been run at higher RPM, at higher speeds. It's been smacked against the waves more, which means that maybe some of the hatches, latches, even the windshield are not matching up perfectly, and things are a little cockeyed. So you've got to be more cautious if you're buying pre-owned. But if you do that inspection, you should be in good shape. It's a fine boat. There may be some years where Baja had wood in them, and that's the issue. I want to say, I don't remember for sure when Baja got sold, but I think there were some periods where Baja did have some wood issues, rotten, and that's probably I would say probably in the 90s. So if you're looking something newer than that, you're probably okay. But if you like that style, Ben, you're probably also you like the performance aspect of it, and the graphics and everything about the Baja is kind of that performance minded person that wants to go fast and wants to enjoy it. Just do your inspection, take your big screwdriver, knock especially on the transom, but even all the way down the boat, under the boat. Make sure that the structure is solid. There's no delamination. Look for stress cracks throughout, the indication that, man, they really beat this boat on rough water, and you got some flex in it, and that's caused problems. Maybe that's damaged a stringer. Hey, Matt, when we switched over, I lost all of your questions. So I apologize. But if you could re-put those in, I will get back and answer them for you. But I did lose all those, so I apologize. And Savvy, thank you for that question. That I think my girls got a kick out of answering a question asked to them. Although my youngest gets crazy when she gets excited, she just gets all wild and says crazy stuff. But thank you for asking that question. That was great. All right. 4 kids, all adults. Now, well, still, you got through the hard part. So good. Herb, good to see you back. Good to have you. Have the kids ever ridden a Zup board? Tells us they have not, but I have friends that have, and that's what their kids learned on. When I was a kid, we had what was called a zip sled. It was like the precursor to the Zup board, bigger, heavier, harder to handle. And it is a great way for kids to learn the feel of getting up on skis, to the feel of riding on the water, being pulled behind the boat. It's a great starter for younger kids to move on to skiing, or even though it's a different skill, wakeboarding, that comfort level. I think anything that you can do to get the kids comfortable, 1, in the water, and 2, being pulled behind the boat, because it can be scary. Herb, I forget what boat you have. And I know this. I know you have told that on other lives, but it can be really intimidating as a kid to be back there and to have those big wakes building and to be pulled behind the boat, to be out there all by yourself, and trying to get up, and having a board that's really easy, being real easy on the throttle, because that's got so much surface area. They just pop right up. I think they've got the handle that holds on to that goes to the board, that you can set it up that way, or have them hold the handle. But that ease of getting up and just getting comfortable back there is great. And then they kind of get the balance a little bit. They don't have to worry about managing the skis and getting them on and off. They can just slip their feet in that Zup board. They'll pop right up at super, super slow speeds. And so they can get really comfortable without going fast, which is my youngest daughter's issue, is even pulling her 12 miles an hour on the wakeboard. She gets nervous, and so she doesn't want to do that. My oldest will wakeboard, and she's fine going 15 or so, and she doesn't have that fear, but my youngest does. And having having something like the Zup board would probably be great for her. And it's a pretty great thing to put little kids on. All right. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Matt, for making you retype all that stuff. My first question was, when I first got the boat last year, the boat went 55. Now it's only going 52. For new boats, do they lose a little power after the first year? So, Matt, was yours brand new? Or I want to say you've got a Chaparral something. I want to say a 21 or 23 Chaparral. It would be, to me, it's not common that it is losing power in the first couple years. It's a couple of things that it could be. One, if you keep your boat in the water, it could be growth on the bottom of the boat. That could slow you down. Yours is an inboard, outboard, a stern drive. So that I would be shocked if you leave it in the water, and it's really early in the season to have much growth on it. But that can definitely slow you down. The next thing is check your prop. If you've dinged your prop and it's a little bit out of balance, if it's not the perfect, the shape, you've got some nicks on it, that can slow you down a little bit too. You're not getting as much distance as the propeller screws through the water, and you can a little bit more slippage if you got some dings in it and stuff, and that could be the cause of it. It could be, hey, maybe you've got gas that isn't as high of octane now. Maybe it's gas left over from last year. You've lost some of the octane, and the engine just isn't putting out as much power as it did when it had fresh gas in it. Even if you treated it, the gas can lose some octane, and that could be the issue. Maybe you're not trimming the boat to the same level to really get that optimum speed out of it a little bit. Maybe you got more weight in the boat. Maybe you've added more gear or heavier anchor or more people, a bigger cooler. All of that stuff is going to impact your speed as well. Maybe you were running into the wind with your Bimini top up. That will bleed off a couple miles an hour as well. So there's a number of things that could go into the speed drop that's not related to anything other than conditions. Maybe it was a little bit windier. You were going into the wind where you were running 55. That was more often you were running against the wind, or the water was rougher or smoother. That can all play into it. What I would pay attention to is I would look at my RPM, and then I would look at my speeds, and I would say, okay, at 4,500 RPM, we're hitting, let's say, 37 miles an hour. At 5,000, we're hitting 40. At 5,500, we're hitting, and trimmed up to the max before you start porpoising, trimmed up to that optimal level. Where am I at? And use that as a gauge. That can take out some of the things to determine, is it conditions, is it motor, or is it something else? But putting a fresh tank of gas in, burning all that old fuel out, putting the fresh tank in, checking your fuel filters. If maybe there's some debris or something, it's such a small amount that it could be a number of those little things. But those are the things that I would check for sure. Bennett Burke, welcome. Looking to buy an aluminum fishing boat, considering Lund Sea Arc Ranger. Your opinion would be greatly appreciated. So, Bennett, I can't tell you. I do not have the level of expertise in the aluminum market to give a recommendation. I also don't know enough about you. I don't know enough about what you're looking to do. And even aluminum fishing boat, you've got the deep V, you've got the modified V, you've got the flat bottom, you got the windshield boats, the side consoles. And I, even if I knew more about your boating style, it would be hard for me to say this is the brand that you can go with. I know Sea Arc builds a good boat. Let me see if I can do this. I would probably go. Let me just do. I'm going to check something out here. Okay, so Sea Arc is the Yamaha boats, I believe. No, that's G3. What am I thinking? Who owns Sea Arc? It's Sea Arc and Veranda. Sea Arc and Veranda are the same company. Let me see if that's right. Who owns Sea Arc? Correct Craft now owns Sea Arc. Okay. Why am I putting them with Veranda? And you guys can't see my screen, which I apologize for. It's hard to do. It's hard to do on this system and show different things. But yeah, I can't even give you, Bennett, I can't even give you a good ranking for them. So here's what I'm going to recommend to you. I'm going to give you 2 channels to check out where they may have talked about it a little bit. If you go to Andy's Team Marine, what is it? Team Marine Service is that the name of his channel? I know a bunch of you guys watch his stuff. YouTube. Team Marine. So Andy at Team Marine Service has a really good channel. He is an actual technician. So he owns a service shop. They do repowers. I think he might have started carrying some bass boats as well. But he has a lot better handle on that market than I do. I need to do the research to get that education, but they're not that common down in my area. That hasn't been where my boating experience has been. I used to run, friends of mine growing up had a Starcraft aluminum deep V with the windshield. But I was high school back then when Gerald had that one. That was just a buddy of mine that we would go skiing together every now and again. And Ryan had, I think they had a Lund that we skied behind on their small lake in Nebraska. But check out him, and then also check out Wayne the Boat Guy. Wayne the Boat Guy was on the live with us. It's been a while ago, 6-8 months, a year ago, something like that. And he's done some videos on some of the aluminum boats. He owns a couple of aluminum boats, or has owned a couple. He also owns a fiberglass 4 winds, I think, 18, 19 foot 4 winds. And although he's a new boater, he has done, and he was a new boater when he started his channel. He's now been a boater for several years. And he's researched it as a newer person to the boating world, which is good as well. And so he may have some videos that would be helpful for you. And I am working on gathering that information, and getting to know the brands and the quality level better. In the U.S., why do they drive cars and trucks, steer from the port, boats on the starboard, planes left, depending on their preference? Cars is because in England they did it on the other side, and we wanted to not be like the British, and so they started driving from the opposite side that they did over there, and that transferred to the cars. I do know that. Why they do it on boats, I don't have any idea. Somebody's asked this question before, and I still don't have an answer. I even think I looked it up and couldn't find anything good. So Ray, sorry about that. Hopefully you're doing well there in Indiana. Let's see, Matt, when you turn the key halfway, you get that beep. Is it bad to turn it through that instead of letting the beep, then turning the boat on? So it's not necessarily bad. I actually asked this question of a technician a couple years ago, and so when you crank the beeps are telling you you've got low oil pressure, right? So that's one of the boats overheating, low oil pressure, or low water pressure from your impeller. It can be one of those things, right? That's the initial beep is because there's no oil pressure. The engine's not started up yet. But there's also on newer boats, there's also a what did he call it? There's a fuel pump thing that primes. And I'm screwing this up a little bit, but this is the gist of it. It's priming the fuel pump to get ready for you to start. And I forget what he called it. Brock, some of you guys may know, but and this was on a stern drive, which I think you have a stern drive on your chaparral, Matt, so it would apply. You're not causing any problem by just turning it through. I have gotten in the habit of just as many boats as I've started, and this is hundreds of different boats, is I always turn the key a quarter turn, get the beep, let that go through. You can hear on some of them, you can hear that fuel pump prime, whatever. It's not a fuel pump, I don't think, but you can hear that fuel get ready to go, and then I start it up. You're not going to cause a problem if you just go right through, but I would say that you're more likely to get a misstart on the first one. So I just do the click and then go. That is a unproven answer of that you shouldn't do the other. It's just that's the way I've done it since I've been starting boats. Since I started driving the boat when I was like 14, 15, Dad would let me drive. When I was 16, I drove the boat. My brother and I almost exclusively drove the boat, unless we were skiing multiple kids, and then Dad would drive and we would go. So that is my answer there. And but you're not wrecking anything. You're not causing damage if you just go right through it. Just is going to take the system a while to catch up to you to get the turn. Can you speak on overall cost of boat ownership? If you can do 90% of the maintenance yourself, are they really that expensive to own? Best way to reduce costs? Loaded question. Sorry. No. So I'm sorry, Ben, the best way to save money on your boat is to use it. Now, take fuel out of the equation and take, the cooler cost, whatever it costs you to fill up the cooler and go out. But you will have fewer repairs if you're actually using the boat consistently over time. You will also, you figure, I was talking to Mike, who, let's see, I don't think he is. I sent him the link really late. He might have forgot it was Father's Day this weekend too. And so he wasn't able to join. I'm going to try to get him on in the future, but for Labor Late, I'm in Charlotte, where we have a decent sized boating community because we have several really nice lakes there. Lake Wiley, which is the one he's on for the most part. Mountain Island Lake is much smaller, but a nice lake on that chain. And then we have Lake Norman, which is 550 miles of shoreline and a ton of boats there. And the average shop rate at a dealership is probably $190 to $250 per hour. Okay. The independent mobile mechanics are usually around $120 to $150. And then the cheap mechanics are $85 to $100 an hour. Now, not always, but the lower on the price spectrum that the tech is, that they charge, the less likely they are to have the experience, the knowledge, the professionalism. Not always, but you get what you pay for a lot of times. Not saying that the most expensive ones are the best, but they likely have all the diagnostic equipment. They've got the right tools for the right jobs, which means that a job that's charged by the hour, they can probably do quicker than the guy that doesn't have exactly the right tools. They don't have the right computer software. And that's a video that Mike and I did the other day talking about the technology that they use. But if you can do all that wrenching yourself, you out of the gate, $100 an hour, every hour you work, or maybe every hour and a half you work, because you got a learning curve, you've got some tools that you need to buy, is you're saving $85 to $200 an hour, depending on where you are, Ben. So that saves it consistently. So here's what you have for the cost. You have the boat. Okay. So however, check or financing, paying it monthly. So that's the biggest chunk. Now you've got storage. Where are you going to keep the boat? If you can keep it in your driveway, if you're on a trailer, then it's free. That's another huge savings. Or if you can find, depending on your area, a secured gravel lot or some sort of self access parking with a keypad or some sort of entrance at your time so that you can go out and come back whenever you want. If you're a fisherman, if you're like me and like to be out in the evening, make sure you have access the times that you need to. That's going to be the next cheapest. And then you go to, the covered parking, maybe over awning or indoor. There's a dealership that I've worked with in the Carolinas that when they built their new facility, they built boat motels. So indoor garages that's on their property, secured fence that you got a security code, and then you got a security code on your personal garage that's heated. But that gets expensive. They're 10 minutes from a boat ramp, super convenient, super secure, climate controlled, but now you just raise your cost. Wet slip, dry storage, if you have that in your area, now you've really increased your cost of ownership. But if you can park it in the driveway or park it in a friend's property, just be cautious of rodents, be cautious of critters. That can cause, you can save here, but it can cost you there with somebody eats your upholstery or gets in and chews some wiring. And that is more common than you would expect. So just take precautions if that's the route you go, but that's another big savings. If you can do your wrenching yourself, even if it's just the basic stuff, if you can learn how to do your winterization, which you can. I was talked earlier. I helped the neighbor start rebuilding their dock. And I was the gopher. I was the hold this, go get that guy. That's my level of skill in the mechanic area and the building area. But if you have those skills, you can easily winterize your boat, even just basic. I know how to use a screwdriver and I get the concepts. You learn how to do it right, use the right fluid, and you'll be in good shape there. Do the full process. I've got some videos on it, and Mike and I are going to do some of those videos and walk through some different engines on the winterization process as we get to that season. But you can find those resources, oil changes, impeller changes, gear loop changes. I've got a video on my channel right now on a Yamaha, 90 Yamaha, I think. I just recorded one on a 115 Mercury. I'll be recording them on Stern Drives, Volvo, and Mercruiser. But if you go to Born Again Boating, Aaron over there at Born Again Boating, or if you go to Dangar Marine, Dangar Stew, I think is the channel. He is in New Zealand, but he's got they're both technicians and they've got a lot of how to do that kind of stuff. Watch those and you can do that yourself. So now you only have repairs. So how do you avoid repairs? Well, you learn how to operate your boat properly. You avoid running aground. You avoid running in shallow waters and having to ding up a prop, break off a skeg, tear up your lower unit, spin a prop hub. All of those things I did something dumb that could have been avoided had I known the markers, had I known how to watch the depths or found the local knowledge. That can save you. I was, a prop on a 90 horsepower outboard, aluminum, couple $100. Prop on the Cobalt that my in-laws have that we ran the other day. You're talking dual counter rotating stainless steel props, $2,500 to buy new ones and $400 or $500 to have them repaired. And so avoiding mistakes, especially running aground and getting shallow, that's a big expense that a lot of people have. So just be aware of that. And then, like I said, use it. The boat that sits for months and months at a time is the boat that every time you go out, you've got something wrong with it. the boat that gets used consistently and then put away for the winter properly is the boat that has much fewer repair issues. But then you have the maintenance stuff, which you're saving a ton of money on yourself, running good fuel in the boat. A lot of issues are fuel related. And then the other is taking good care of it, spending the time to polish it and wax it and clean it and wipe it down and keep it dry is going to help you when you resell it, that you're going to get a better resale value for it, and it's going to move quickly. And that's going to save you cost of ownership dollars, because you're going to recoup a bigger portion of your initial purchase price when you take good care of it. So hopefully, Ben, that helps you and is what you were looking for. Let's see here. All right, where are we at? We're at half hour in. Let's see here. John, I don't know if I said welcome to you or not, but welcome. And I'm just scrolling through, making sure we don't have any crazy spam like we did the other day. Kings of City, welcome. Happy Father's Day to you as well. Jason Parker, Veranda, what are your thoughts? Barletta worth the extra price, looking to spend around 100, 250, 300. Okay, so Barletta, worth the money. It is in my opinion, it's the best built pontoon on the market right now. Somebody sent me. Okay, I need you to behave if you're going to sit here with me. Okay, don't get crazy.
I'm going up. We're doing this like karaoke thing up there.
Okay.
Yeah, like we're playing a beat of a song.
Okay.
And then the words are showing to the other people, and you just sing it what you know the lyrics.
What you think the lyrics are?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds fun. I'll be up there when I finish. Okay.
Okay.
You got chocolate on your face. Love you.
I'm Aunt Kelly's grandma now.
Okay. Hey, I
You
need
missed
you
the
to
whole
go.
conversations.
I'm sure. I'll catch up on it later.
Bye.
Okay. Go.
Peace.
So now is it worth it question? Is it better? Absolutely. Hands down, it's much better than Veranda. Barletta, top of the premium. Veranda, mid-tier. Okay. And all the mid-tier boats are so close that they just all lump together. Veranda, they've got the metal decking. Is it a benefit? Maybe. Is it significantly better? I don't think so. But it's not bad either. So there's no, I don't give them a big bump for that because of the no wood thing. Part of it's marketing, but their interlocking channels has been a proven technology for 20 plus years. And so there's no downside to it. But when you look at the upholstery, when you look at the quality of the materials they use, they're not the cheapest, but they're definitely not in the premium category. Even their best boats that are 100,000, put them in the mid tier. Okay. So with that said, it's up to you, Jason. It's up to here's the question that I ask in my toolkit, which I don't think I brought one with me, but in the Boat Buyers Toolkit that you can get for free at boatbuyerstoolkit.com, one of the first questions I ask is, what style, like what are you going to do 80% of the time? And then I ask the question, what kind of car do you buy? So if you're somebody that goes out and buys, I always use a Denali. If you buy the Denali for the truck, then you need the premium tier. It doesn't have to be Barletta. Barletta, Bennington, Harris, Manitou, with some exceptions to the Manitou. If you buy that premium level, then that's a Denali person that does that. Okay. Or the person that buys the best of whatever brand it is. That there's a certain personal preference and pride of ownership that comes in with that. And that's just, I don't deal with I want the best, so I don't have to worry about it. Then Barletta is the way you need to go. Now, if you're like me and you say, listen, that's great, but this is my fun money, and I don't want to invest $175,000 to get the best. I'm okay going to the mid tier where there's going to be a few things that maybe noticeable. The ride, not as rock solid, not as smooth, but it's to save 75 grand to go to that mid tier. That makes sense for me. I'm still going to be out there. I'm still going to be having a good time. I've got the same motor, whether it's a Yamaha, a Mercury, a Suzuki, the same motor on it. And I'm not going to get $75,000 more enjoyment out of it. And that's where my mind goes. That's my personal preference. And my personal preference is I go used. But that's me. So you've got to figure out what you are. And if you're that premium person, then go with the Barletta, spend the money. If you are that, hey, this is our fun money, and we're in Nebraska where I grew up. We boated 3, maybe 4 months out of the year. There's no lake big enough that you're going to notice that big of difference between the Barletta and the Veranda. Go with the Veranda if that suits you. 250 versus 300. 250 is going to go fast enough unless you're putting 14 225 pound. If you're putting 14 of me on the boat, I'm 6'2", 225. Hey, if you got a bunch of me on the boat, that extra 50 horsepower may come in handy. But for performance, for most of the things that you're going to do, the 250 is going to be more than enough for what you're going to do, unless you're going to load that boat up and you need that extra performance, which there's very few situations where that's going to be the case. Or you're the person that would rather have that 3 on the back, and that's worth spending the extra 20 grand to go from the 250 to the 300 or whatever it is, 15, 20 grand. If you are, I just want the 300, then go with that. You're going to be glad that you did. You're going to be glad that you have the 300. But if that doesn't play into your equation and you're not going to put, big people on the boat, big heavy people on the boat, and over 8 to 10 of them, then that 250 is going to have enough performance for you. The 22 to 25, if you're going with the 250 or the 300, I would go 23, 24, 25. I think that extra weight is going to allow you to put some more. The extra length is going to give you more buoyancy, which allows you to put more weight on the boat and get better performance. And also, if you're putting a 250 or a 300, my mind tells me that you're on a bigger, rougher lake. That may or may not be true, but I like longer on rougher, choppier bodies of water. A 22 is going to do fine on most lakes, but if you start getting really big, like I said, Lake Wylie and Lake Norman. On Lake Wylie, a 22 is going to get you through even maybe 4th of July and Memorial Day. You got to be real careful to keep your bow up. But on Lake Norman, I would go 24 or 25. On Lake of the Ozarks, I would go 24, 25 if I was going to be boating on the busier end of the lake. So hopefully that helps you, Jason. Hopefully that gives you some ideas, and then you can put your personal thoughts into there and make your choice. Okay. All right, John, what do you think about the new Rotex motors on Manitou? So I mentioned in Jason's question, I said Manitou is a premium boat, but there's some exceptions, and the Rotex is the exception. I think it's a terrible idea. Now, full disclosure, I have not run one. I have not seen one in person. I don't know anybody on the inside of BRP or Manitou. But here's what I do know. I do know that you put an engine block underwater, and after you do the first service on that and you open that thing up, it is nearly impossible to get it put back and to maintain the watertight integrity over time. And as soon as you get a little bit of water coming in, a little bit of a seal doesn't get put back exactly right, a little bit of debris gets in there, is that engine block is going to get water in it, and that's a disaster. And water, especially salt water, it's going to wreak havoc on anything. And I don't like the look of the new Manitous. That's an aesthetic thing that's outside the point, but I think it looks cheap. I think it looks cheap. I want to say plasticky. There's something about the look that just screams cheap to me. Although I know the boat's well made, it just looks cheap to me. But I do not the Rotex motors. I think it's a terrible idea. I personally know dealers that have walked away from the Alumacraft or the Manitou brand because of the changes that they made this season. They carried Manitou 2 years ago, and they dropped them at the dealer meeting where they said, here's the direction that we're going as BRP and as these boat brands. And they said, we are not on board with that, and we're walking. And those are people that are more experienced, know boats, know the boating industry better than I do, significantly better than I do. And if they made those decisions, and I respect the people that I know that made those decisions, that tells me something as well, that they don't have a high level of confidence in this working out. And I don't either. So, and the technicians that I've talked to that are like, why would that make sense to put a boat engine underwater? Because that's one of the most damaging things that can happen to an engine is it gets water intrusion. And I think boating has been around long enough to know that water is going to get in everywhere. No matter how well you try to protect it, it's just not going to work. So not a fan. Savvy says, what a good ownership period in years before selling to recoup value after buying a brand new boat. 30, greater than 30. Okay, so the curve is the first 5 years is where you're going to take the biggest drop. And here's why. Because if you think of yourself as a buyer that bought a new boat, you had to make the decision, do I buy slightly used or do I buy new? Well, there's got to be a big enough discrepancy. And I did a video on this. I don't know what the name of it was, but there's got to be a big enough discrepancy between brand new, full warranty, no dings. I know exactly what's happened to this boat, to a year, not enough gap typically. 2 years, not enough difference. I'm still going new. 3 years, okay, now we start thinking, but it's that fourth and fifth year where the curve has started to level out. But the reality is there becomes a point of probably about 5 to 7 years. You're outside of the warranty period. That would be my gut that says, and I don't have specific numbers to back this up, but although I am doing my used boat series where I'm tracking values, and I'll probably be putting one of those videos out soon because I've been tracking things. But does it make a difference? 30 to, I would say less than 30 is probably going to be maybe closer to that 7 year. Greater than 30, I would think would be maybe a little bit earlier, because that drop of over 30, the dollar amount goes up significantly. I mean, you're starting at 300 or more. And so a 10% drop is 30 grand. And to some people, that's a big enough drop, especially those people that are buying on financing. That 30 grand is going to drop that monthly amount down to fit more budgets. I would think that might be a little bit sooner, but I don't think it's significant. So I would say 5 to 7 years is kind of my window, Savvy, that you're still going to get a good resale value. You hit after 10 years, and now financing changed. Financing gets more expensive when the boat's over 10 years old. And so it's definitely before that 10-year mark, unless you're going to keep it for 30 years. So because it hits that 10-year mark and it takes a kind of a bigger drop, and then it starts to flatten out. And a good running boat that's 20 years old isn't going to be significantly less than a good running boat that's 15 years old or 25 years old. That depreciation curve really flattens out at that point. Sustainability, welcome. Happy Father's Day. Bo, welcome. Happy Father's Day. Good to have you. Let's see. Rev 9 fan. I was thinking about getting a Sea Ray 280 Cruiser. Seems they aren't like they were in the 90s, 2000s. Now they're bow rider cabin combos. Yes. So let's see here. I've been thinking about a Ranger tug. Love old school fishing boat look. What do you think about these boats? I don't know a ton about the Ranger tugs, but you can still find Sea Ray answer. You can still find the cruisers in that category. If you like that idea, the 320 is their smallest cruiser that Sea Ray's making now. So if you don't want to go to that size, I would look at Regal, the Regal Express cruiser. I think they start at 28, and they go up. And I don't know if Jerry is on from up in the Chesapeake area, but let's see. Oh, they got a weekend. Oh, Bo, look at this. They've got a Cuddy. They got a 20. What is that? 24. Yep, 24 and a half, 8-foot beam Cuddy. There you go, Bo. There is. I haven't seen. I don't know why I haven't seen this before, but Bo, if you don't know, Bo, Bo, what's your screen name now? Saint. Saint is from up in Washington area, and he loves the Cuddy cabin style, but they just not many builders are building them anymore. But they've got a 26, 28, and 33 Express, and then they go up to the 36 to a 42. So if you like that style, I would check out Regal. They build a really nice. What is going on? Why did I lose my screen that I wanted? Oh, there we go. They build a really nice cruiser style, that Express cruiser, which is like the old Sea Ray Sundancers. That 280 in the early 2000s was a 31-foot boat. It had I think the beam was 9. Was that 9 or 8.5? But anyway, it was a really roomy cabin boat, and was 31 feet. And they have that style of boating has really slowed down, and they've gone to more of the open day boating style, like their SLXs, and even Cruisers Yachts has. Let's see, Sea Ray Sundancer. I was just looking at this, and I need to show my screen so you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. But when you look at the Sundancer series, and you start looking at it, they're throwing you over to, in that length, cabin cruiser. Yeah, they're going to that day boat style, that crossover of like their SLXs, where you've got a cabin, a mid cabin, but you have an open bow that you walk through, or you walk under, depending on how the style that they do. It's what you're finding, and that more boaters are wanting. Now, if you like that cruiser style, so you can check out Tierra Yachts. You can check out Regal. You can look at Cruisers. Cruisers has some of those. Then you start looking at, okay, the tug style or the trawler style, that would get you not really the looks necessarily, but it would get you the cabin, the usable cabin space, and the deck space for the sun. I don't have any experience with Ranger tugs to give you a positive or negative there, but But those are some styles to look at, or some brands, I should say, to look at. Let's see here. Matt says, so I use the non-octane fuel, but there's a higher one I can use. No, it depends. Do you have a Volvo or do you have a Mercruiser? So, does Volvo get max horsepower from 87 octane? Volvo has always done their horsepower ratings on 90. I don't know if it was 90 or 93 octane, but I don't know if they still do that or not. Let me see if I can find the actual Volvo Penta. Cobalt says 87 octane is fine. 87 octane is fine. But the 90 octane, if it's a Volvo, if it's a new Volvo, Matt, that higher octane will give you more horsepower output. On Mercruiser, they measure their horsepower output at 87 octane, and so there's not a big advantage to running the more expensive fuel. What I would say, okay, all right. So I thought it was new, but I just wanted to confirm that. But I don't know that it's going to. Here's the thing: how often do you run wide open throttle for max speed? Like, how often are you really running 55 miles an hour? I know when my family had a 222 Crown Line, and when we went to the Lake of the Ozarks, my brother and I were charged of running the boat after we got to a certain age. My brother's a couple years older than me, but he would back the trailer down. I would bring the boat over to the ramp and put it on. That was just, I put the boat on, he backed when we boated together. And so every time we left, I would get in the boat, get it all ready. And then it was a longer run for him to go to the ramp. So I would go out into the channel, and this would be on a Tuesday or something like that. Nobody out there, calm. And I would put the hammer down on that thing. It had a 350 mag in it. It sounded amazing. Get that baby trimmed up. The rev limiter would beep a couple of times, and that boat would run almost 60 miles an hour. And that was great, but I'm almost certain my dad didn't do it, but once or twice a season, just for the hell of it. I did it once or twice a season when I was putting it on the trailer because I thought it was awesome and I wasn't paying for the gas at that point. But really, how often are you going to hit max speed other than when we're just checking it out? Usually you're going to run 4,000 RPMs. You're going to run just up on plane, and you're going to run 22, 25 miles an hour, maybe, right? There's no advantage to spending the extra money for the higher octane fuel for something that you're going to do. When you look at the RPM readout, if you hook a boat up to a computer, outside of, as Brock tells us, the bass boat community runs 90% at wide open throttle, or they're idling, right? But pleasure boaters that have bow riders, pontoons, deck boats, I would say it probably even goes for center consoles, that except for if they're trollers, if they like trolling and they're fishing and running just at trolling speeds, we run like 70 to 80% of the runtime on pleasure boats in that category are going to be in the 3,500 to 4,500 RPM band. Like, that's where all of your boating is done. And I would bet on your Chaparral that's where you do a majority of your time. And maybe what do we pull? When I did it with Mike the other day on a 115 Merc 4-stroke on a pontoon, that's exactly what it was. That top band was less than like 2%. that's just not how pleasure boaters run. So I personally wouldn't spend that extra money to get 3 extra miles per hour that you're going to do for less than 5% of your boating time. I don't think it's money well spent if money is a priority to you. If your budget, hey, it doesn't really matter. I would rather have that speed. Yeah. Then going up to the 93 octane, 100% gasoline, if you can find it, the Rec 90. Yeah, then it's fine. But otherwise, if I can get 87 octane straight gasoline, that's what I'm going to run. So hopefully that makes sense, Matt. And so there we go. All right. Herb says we are in a Formula 310. Okay, there we go. I didn't have you in a Formula, Herb. 310 SS. One of those people that aren't fond of. That's right. I do now. Now that you say that, not ready, able to do tow sports behind it. Tubing is about it. Anything else behind? Yeah. Herb, that's funny. I know exactly what I had a bad experience with the Formula guy, and it's just I brought Herb. I know if you're on the live, I know you're a good one. So you're good. Okay, 23 SSI. I knew it was a 21 or 23. What's your opinion on a 90 Mariner? Well, BC Outdoor Adventures. Mariner hasn't made an engine for a long time. Mariner last year built. 1999. Okay, so here's what I look at. Anytime somebody asks me about a used something, boat brand, motor brand, whatever, here's what I tell them is it's more important about the specific 90 Mariner that you're running or that you're looking at, because at this point, even best case scenario, it's 24 years old, right? Even if it was the last one that came off the line, the last one that got hooked up on the back of a boat, the last one, it's still 24 years old. That 24-year lifespan, the way it was maintained, the way it was run, the way they put it away for the winter season, if it wasn't run year long, the number of hours that it has, all of those things are much more important than the brand at this point. Because even like Force engines, OMC, stringer drives, the Yamahas that had the issues with the exhaust and that, I'll say the Evinrude Ficht, like one of the worst engines that if you ask a technician, name your worst 5 engines, that one's on the list guaranteed. If they had any experience with them at all. With that said, there's still some of those that have been extremely well maintained, and people would say, but mine is awesome. I've never had any issues with it. And they've been diligent on their service and they've treated it like their baby. Hey, maybe you got one of the good ones, and you know, an engine has 20% of them are bad. They get a bad reputation, but 80% of them are good. So it's a matter of the particular one that you're looking at and what's the last 20 whatever years of its lifespan been. How's it been taken care of? How's it been run? The fuel, the winterization, was it salt or freshwater? All of those are much, much more important than the engine brand itself. What's your thoughts on Larson? Haven't really looked into them much. So, Larson boats. All right. So Polaris bought Larson, oh crap, 5 years ago. When was it? 2019. So almost 5 years ago, when they spun that out of the Marquis brand. They are the way they're building them now. I put them in kind of the value, maybe low mid tier, but they're right on the cusp. Okay. the way they're building them. But Bo, my thoughts on this is even the value brand doesn't mean they're awful. Like I don't think there's anybody building terrible boats right now. I think the manufacturing process, it's going to have a Mercury or Yamaha or Suzuki on it, or it's going to have a Mercury or a Volvo. Well, those are on the premium brands as well. So 50% of the boat is going to be the same. Now, the way it gets rigged, the way they run the wiring, the structure of the boat. And for those that don't know, Saint is in technician school right now. And so he's tearing into motors and is well versed in the stuff that we're talking about. But they're in that level where you pound on the fiberglass and you'll hear not as solid a sound. You start looking at some of the details, like, do they have tracks to run the water out from under the seats or around the ski lock or around the engine compartment, however that hatch is set up, or the foam or the gasket seals, not as thick, not as heavy duty. The hardware, maybe 306 instead of 316 stainless. All of that kind of stuff is what you're gonna find is different between the Larson from the higher mid tier in the fiberglass line, Monterey, Crown line, some of those brands, and then definitely you'll see the difference and feel the difference in the ride. From the premium, the Cobalts and the Regals and the Sea Rays, and in that level, the Formulas, which I think Formula in the fiberglass line, I think Formula is the best built fiberglass bow rider. Even though their smallest is at 24, so I put Cobalt right below them, just because they've got down to the smaller sizes. So hopefully, Bo, that helps you out there. But let me see. I don't think Larson boats. Larson boats. Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought, I know they don't make the Cuddy, but I do remember them going to more of the fishing, the fiberglass fishing, that the FX line that would be more comparable to a Lund, to something along those lines. And I don't even think that they're building, what I would call the traditional, like the Bayliner V-Hull. I thought they made that change, and by looking at their website, I'm seeing that, and I'm also seeing that what did they do? Is Larson making boats? Okay, they discontinued Rinker and Striper and the Larson FX brand. So they did. They stopped making. Polaris stopped building them after they bought them. And I don't know that they've redone it. Announces made decisions focused marine investment, flagship boat brands. Polaris will stop producing. This was in April of 2020. Rinker, Striper, and Larson FX boat brands. So yeah, Bo, they're not even building them anymore. I knew they made some change there. Yes, Corey, that goes without saying. I jump on a stern drive boat, and the first thing that I do is turn on the blower. So, and you met my two little girls earlier. So when we go out, and this was just matter of habit when I was selling boats, I got on a boat that I knew I was going to run. I hopped on, turned the battery switch on, and hit the blower. And then I go about getting the cooler set, the life jacket set, getting people aboard, everybody situated, towels on, whatever needs to be done. And by that time, the blower's been running for, 5 minutes, but probably more like 10, 15, 20 minutes with us sometimes, and crank it up. So that blower, we talk about it in our free boater boot camp. Just like we talked about damaging props earlier. We talked about what buoys mean and how to stay out of the shallow areas and where danger zones are when you're talking about how the water depths work in a high level way. We don't get in as detail as we do in the Best Boat Captain and some of the others, but that is just, of course, I don't even think about it. If I'm the one that's going to be running a boat, I'll even do it. And if I'm not the one running the boat, I've been known to jump on when I'm going out with somebody else I hit the blower and I just turn it on because it freaks me out. I sold a 40-foot Sea Ray to a guy that had bought. He started out on a 240 sun deck, I think, and every couple of years he moved up. I only sold him the 40, but he told me the story of when he was out on one of his first boats that he saw a boat explode on Lake Wiley where I was. And that happened every year. It happens on lakes all over the country where people don't run the blower. It is a big part of it. Or, one of them that happened to our lake is they filled up the holding tank. And then when the holding tank pump kicked on, that spark, there was all sorts of fumes, but the blower is going to solve that issue unless you do something just really, really, really dumb. So running that blower is exactly what you're there for. Oh, here we go. I missed Brock, you won't cause a problem turning the key through the beep sequence, but it may take. Yeah. Okay. So the VST, that's the word. That's what that low pressure pump to the VST. That's what the tech told me. See, I had a feeling that Brock would know that answer. So thank you for that, Brock. I appreciate it. Wow. Am I that far? Holy crap. All right. I got to speed things up because I just scrolled through and I got a crap load of questions here. Hux, good to have you. Charlie up in Minnesota. Should you spray Yama Shield on the motors every year? Just the first year? Yama Shield. I would probably say every year, but that is not from, hey, I know what the owner manual said, but in the boating world, protecting and avoiding corrosion and rust is a priority, and keeping things greased, keeping things protected is, I think it's a no-brainer safeguard, Charlie, is to just go ahead and do it. Whatever your manual says, if it says just do it for the first year, you're not going to cause any problems if you continue to do it and protect all of those working parts from starting to get rust and corrosion on them. And I know your Hux 2012 is in a freshwater area, but you still will get it. And anything you can do to protect your engine from that and all those working parts, it's just going to keep you from having problems down the line. So I would say for $12 a can, I'll give everything a couple of shots every year when I put it away. Rev 9, I've been watching YouTube on using radar and chart plotters. Do I have my boat license? I do have my boat license, but the course never got into using Navionics. Is it easy to navigate? No. I would say, and Brock may chime in on this. I see he has. Let's see what he says, because he uses on his bass boat and on his sportsman. Takes a second to get used to it. Never done it. Recommend going out. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. I knew he would be right on it. You can also, I don't know, Brock, if you've watched these, he's run similar systems on his boat since he was a kid as well. And if you go to, depending on what, let's see, do you say, depending on Rev, what you have is you can go to the YouTube channel, and they have pretty good tutorials on everything. But here's the thing is you can customize them so much that watch the tutorials, and then, like Brock said, go out and use them during the day, and you can figure out what makes the most sense on how maybe you've got your custom screen set up for cruising and pleasure boating with friends, going to restaurants, whatever you are. Maybe you've got your screen set up for fishing for this style of fish and one for that style of fish, but you can set up different screen views. And by going out there during the day and you're on the water, and then figuring out where all the menus are, where all the sub menus are. And so you can navigate, and then you set up your screens that this is how I like it to do this. This is how I like it to do that. Then you just go to that screen option, and you're going to stay there for a majority of the time. The radar, I think there's just a learning curve on understanding what is, again, depending on where you're at, there may be some noise from land, from marinas. What's a boat? What's something else? What's land? And figuring out what all that looks like. And that just comes with practice and just reading it, and figuring out how your radar works, what distance you want to be out, what your range is, and coming up with, hey, when I'm going out to my fishing grounds, I run at this range. When I get out to my grounds, or when I get this far offshore, then I open it up and have a bigger view. If I'm in commercial shipping lanes, if I'm in traffic separation schemes, then I set this setting so I can really see what's coming. And you'll figure that out just with experience, and always running your radar. Remember, drive with your eyes out on the water, and your radar and your screens are for reference. Okay, reference, good. I don't see anything, but I'm scanning the horizon and using the radar and the screens as secondary gauges. And then really when you're fishing, have watched your Tri-Tune info, have a 3-4-year-old boat. Would you lean towards Barletta, Bennington, Harris, Manitou, assuming similar condition and hours? Okay. So so you're buying pre-owned. Is Barletta, of those four, Barletta's the best in my opinion. Okay. I think if you rode a Barletta, and if you're 3-4 years old, I haven't run their newest model yet. That's their value brand, which is still on the expensive side in the pontoon market. But they do build it slightly different, not as sturdy, not as their top level. But that just came out this year. And the previous one was last year that it came out. So 3-4 years, you're going to be in the top 2 categories, which is the best built pontoon that I've ever run. Okay. I rode it for the first time, and it was the year they came out. So, and they're still building them the same way, but I rode it. It was a 24-foot with the 150. And I rode it with the dealer that started carrying them. And I told him, I said, Matt, this is the best rock solid pontoon that I've ever been on. And I've run Benningtons. I sold Harris's, Manitous, Crests, you name it. Sun Tracker, or Aqua Patio, Sandpan, Sweetwater. That's the one I was looking for. I've run them all, and that Barletta was hands down more solid than any other boat. Now, with that said, the condition and hours, that matters, how well it's been taken care of. With that said, the Bennington, everything except for the S and SX model, the Harris, everything except for the Cruise model, and the Manitou, everything except for Manitou is the one that I don't know right off the top of my head, but I sold Harris, so I know that really, really well. Yeah, look at the new that is, but doesn't that look to me that looks cheap? Oh, you guys can't see my screen. What am I doing? Here I am watching the screen, and you guys can't even see it. But their Aurora line, no, their Oasis line, I think, is going to be their least expensive line. Oh, I need to plug in. Thank you for pointing that out. Oh, I thought you were. Oh, are you saying that it's time for me to come up and hang out with you guys? Okay. All right. Okay. So outside of those, I just lost my, outside of those models within the brands, I can tell the difference when I run it. But I've run a ton of boats. You're not going to go wrong with the Bennington, with the Harris, or with the Manitou in that age range. All the Manitous are fine. And the Aurora, I think, is their lowest level. So I would put the Barletta at the top, but those others are so much low, or it's such a thin amount lower, that if that's the one you go with, you're not going to be disappointed. Okay. Now, Brenton, if you're buying from a dealer, then the dealership matters. So then I'm going to say, doesn't matter which brand, but buy from the dealer that's going to give you the best support over the long term. And that is, look at Google reviews, online reviews, go talk to their service writer and their service, their parts person, talk to the people in the service department, because they're not salespeople. They're just going to tell you what you want to know, and they're not going to spin it typically. And that's a great source of information. Walk the docks and the marinas to see other people that have those. Ask them about the dealer. Hey, what's ABC dealer like? We're thinking about buying a boat from them. And not always, but typically, if you're buying a Barletta, it's probably a Barletta dealer that has it. Same thing with Bennington and Harris and Manitou. So not probably 80% of the time that's the case. But I would go, let's see, how would I do this? Quality construction in those years, Barletta, Manitou, Harris, Bennington, and Harris, Bennington are so close. And again, take out the SX for Bennington and the Cruise for Harris. Throw those out because those are built different and they're significantly lower. Although you'll find more of those on the market in a lot of areas, but don't compare top tier Barletta, top tier Manitou to the Bennington S and SX and the Harris Cruise. That those, and you'll see when you look at them, you'll notice the differences. No loungers on some of the seats on the cheaper models, things like that. Radar takes a second to get used to. Rev, hopefully you got all of those. Definitely been doing my research. Agreed. Daytime first. Florida, Bahamas, 35 Ranger tug. Yes. Practice way before. That's good thinking. Good thinking. Yeah. And Brock, Rev, Brock's input and insight is way more valuable than mine on this topic. And his comments are based on real experience, not only from himself, but he knows saltwater boating. He's been using screens and electronics on his fishing and fishes in tournaments and has been since he was a kid with his dad. So, Anthony Squires, yes, this is live now. And if you start, people start spamming, we'll shut it down. But for right now, we're going for live. So I see you have a question coming up, Anthony. I'll get to you in just a second. Night and day difference to mine. Also got hooked up 24 display. Yeah, bigger display is helps. Awesome. Anthony says, what's the best length boat for going up the coast of San Diego to Catalina Island? I am on the wrong coast to answer that. I know you're, well, I don't know this, but I think you are pretty open ocean on that type of trip. San Diego to Catalina Island. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question for you. 75 miles to Avalon. How long? 22 miles. Catalina is only 22 miles off the coast. I'm trying to look for Catalina Island map. Give me that map. All right. Again, I'm because I can't share my screen. This isn't super. Yeah, it looks like a pretty unprotected run. You've got San Clemente Island giving you a little bit of a break. I don't really know. I would venture to say, just a totally uneducated guess for you, Anthony, is I would say 30. But here's what I would do is I would go and ask this question in a San Diego boating community. And you're going to get a much more educated answer than what I can provide, because that is boat size, but also think about your boat handling skill level, ability to read weather, ability to handle waves as an operator. I can run a boat in certain conditions, and you put somebody else in the same boat that has a different skill level, and they're going to have a harder or easier time than I will, and experience with that style of boat in those conditions. So think about those kinds of things as well, because it's more than just the size of the boat. Make sure you've got the skills to match where you're getting into. And there's also, I know, especially in that area, there's captains that you can have if it's a challenging run. And the more open ocean it is, the more challenging it will be. Is, hey, hire a captain to take you out there to be with you the first time. You can do all the boat running, but they're by your side to say, hey, watch out for this. This often happens here. This is the best tack to take. This is, hey, when you feel the wind coming out of this direction, that's what's going to happen. That's what this means. And that inside knowledge is going to make that run much, much more fun for you. Or maybe it's less challenging than what it might look. And it's an easy, fun run that you can make in a 25-footer. I don't know. So I would go to a local boating community or a local boat show, or go to a marina and just talk to some folks that have done that. All right. Brenton says, for lake cruising, tubing, potentially wakeboarding, do you have a tri-tune favorite considering 2-3-year-old Barletta? All right. So Brenton, was that you that answered that or that asked that question? Okay. Yeah. All right. So I just answered that for you. So, all right. What size tank and generator for being 7 days offshore, power and free mooring? So, it depends. I mean, your generator is not gonna burn that much fuel. So you just figure out what the gallons per hour burn for your gen is. Your engine's getting there and back is going to be the most important thing. So, I can't answer that for you, Anthony. Unfortunately, I'm coming up blanks for you all night long. So sorry about that. Drew says, I'm in Charlotte too. Any Rex for go-to Volvo Penta Mechanics? 95 Revo Commodore at my marina. Wouldn't touch the outdrive because it was old. Unfortunately, Drew, that is going to be a common thing when you start to get. And I just had this conversation with the tech that's on Lake Wiley. Is he was working on, when I walked up, he was working on a 40 horse Mercury in a boat that was taking on water, a little aluminum fishing boat. And I would guess it was probably 20 years old or so. And he fixed the spark issue that they were having on the engine. And as he fixed that and was doing a test run, well, then the ignition started sticking. And so now he can charge the whatever hour, 2 hours it took to do that. But he called the customer, and the customer said, "Hey, what do you mean you broke my ignition?" It's like, "I didn't break your ignition. This boat everything's breaking on it. This just happened to break while I was the one turning it. It would have broke on you when you turned it as well." And so they tend to stand back from that. I assume it was probably Tally's. I don't know if you talk to Tally's, but I would talk to them. Tally's is the Regal dealership off 77 there, Drew. I would check with them. I will, you can check. I don't know for sure if you're on Wiley or Norman or Mountain Island, but do this. Send me, I forgot to run my little screen there. Send me an email to this email address, captain@Boater's Secret Weapon, Drew. And I'll connect you with a couple different ones that could probably help you out. So just shoot me an email there and I'll connect you. I'm actually in Tennessee right now at my in-laws lake place on Lake Loudon. And so I don't have the business cards and the connections. And also tell me what lake you're on, and if you're on a trailer or if you're in a dry stack or a wet slip without a trailer, because then I can match up with the tech that's on that lake and try to get you connected. But know that this time of year, they're probably 2, 3, 4 weeks out. And depending on what's wrong with it, the parts are going to take some time as well. So, but email me and I'll connect you with a couple and to find one to help you out, hopefully. Know you're a fan of outboards. Do you feel that good option to have a cabin cruiser? Wasn't sure how it would affect handling. No, I am. Outboards are amazing. They're quiet. They're efficient. On a pontoon, that's definitely the way to go. But on the cruisers, having the torque that you get from a stern drive, especially if you're in fresh water, only if you're in fresh water. If you're in salt water, I would go outboard. So saltwater and pontoons, outboard, you really would have to convince me as to why you would go with the stern drive. Or if you're going big enough to go inboard, then inboards are fine. V drives are direct drives. The stern drive, if you're a lake boater, this is why I don't think stern drives are ever going to go away. I think Volvo and Mercruiser, or if somebody, who is it, Ilmore, created their stern drive. I don't know how well that's taken off, but it's a new entry to the market. I think that's who it is. But anyway, I like it because it opens up the back of the boat, and it gives easy access to the sun deck, or I'm sorry, the swim platform. And that is, if you're a lake boater, that's where you spend a lot of time. You throw the anchor out, you're at the sandbar, you're in a cove. That's what we did yesterday. My family and my brother and sister-in-law, we threw the anchor out in a cove and we hopped in the water and we spent 5 hours floating around in the water, talking, having a great time, having laughs like crazy. And sat on the swim platform and ate my sandwich. My girls sat on the swim platform after they had been in the water for a while, had their Capri Suns, got snacks, and just it makes it easy. So, and on the cruisers, you've got the torque as well. You got the big Bravo 3 drives or the Volvo Pinto dual prop, and it's a great setup in fresh water. I don't like stern drives in salt water because the maintenance is more difficult. But you're not going to find a 28-foot you're not going to find a 28-foot cruiser with outboards unless you look in the last 5, maybe 7 years, and the selection is going to be slimmer. It does your storage question. I do know it's more storage. Yeah, the outboards give you more storage in the boat, but it cuts off the access to the water. And if you're looking 28, you're looking probably twins. If you're looking 30 plus, you're looking at twins. Maybe 28, you're still single. I think unless you're in salt water, I think you're fine. If you're in salt water, I would say, try to find something with outboards if that fits your size range, and your age range or your budget, if that makes sense. Silver Stranger, welcome. Good to have you. Boaters Planet, good to have you here. Yes, Cobalt makes a very good hull. My father-in-law and mother-in-law have a Cobalt R5, 2018, 19, something like that. And it is awesome. It is rock solid. I'm on the trim a bunch. I turn off the auto trim function when I'm running the boat, and use the trim so you can really lighten it up on the chop. But even if you hit a huge wake, which we do out here at times, Lake Loudon is locked in. You can make it all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So there's barges, there's big yachts that run, there's a ton of wake boats that run, and you hit some chop. So if you haven't seen Boaters Planet on Facebook, they've got a fairly active Facebook group there. If Boaters Planet, you should reach out to me sometime. Maybe there's something that we can do together if you're still on. Let's see, Matt, I've got the 300 Merc Bravo drive. Say the boat should be able to pull 2 skiers out of the water, 10 people on the boat. No, you will not get 2 people. And okay, if they're really, really good skiers, and they can drag like crazy, they know how to create the pocket to tuck their head down and to be able to breathe and can hold on for that long, you can get it done. But it is, and every weekend I drive the boat. That I love that, Matt. You're like, hey, I like my speed. I remember Matt I don't know if this was before he bought the boat or after, he was talking about, do I get the 300 horsepower or the 250? He kept asking the question, what's the difference? What's the difference between the 250 and the 300? Now I know that's because Matt wanted to hit, I don't want to hit 53. I want to hit 55. And so that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, it's the torque out of the hole that is going to pull the skiers up. And although that Bravo was great for a heavy boat like that 23 SSI, it is not quick out of the hole. It is, when you say 2 skiers, I'm gonna assume they're on slalom skis. So single. It depends on how heavy they are, how good of skiers they are. If it's 2 people on doubles, I would think you could do that without a problem. We used to, when I was a kid, we would go to the Lake of the Ozarks for vacation, and every year we would try to see how many people we could pull up. When we had our 18-foot Thompson with probably a 4.3 liter, 180 horsepower, my guess is what it was at that time. Maybe it was less that would have been in the late 80s probably. But we could almost always get, and it had an alpha drive, we could almost always get 3 skiers up And my brother and I were bigger guys. My sister would be one of them. And then we'd have friends, but we would try to get 5, 6 of us up at once. We all slalom skied. And, it was a production, getting the lines out and getting them all separated, getting everybody spaced right, finding a smooth enough area with a big enough runway. And inevitably we would get 3 up, but we never got everybody up, but we had to try it every year. When we moved to the 22-foot crown line with the 350 mag and Bravo 3s, we didn't get as many people up because the boat was heavier. It took a while. And we were running this with 2 people in the boat, my dad, who's a bigger guy, and somebody sitting up in the bow to try to get that bow down as quick as we could. It was harder to do it with the Bravo 3 and the bigger engine because the boat was just heavier and we didn't have enough oomph to get out. So if it's doubles, I would think you could do it. If you're singles, it's going to be a struggle with 10 people in the boat, unless a whole bunch of them are kids and the people behind the boat are really good skiers that know how to grip and just tuck. And what we would do is we would just tuck and put our heads down and just hold on like mad, and just hope that you got up on top of the water enough to eventually be able to stand up. But you just tucked and stayed for as long as you could. And then you would peek your head up every now and again to see how it was coming. And it was fun to do, even though we weren't successful very often. And then I pick everyone else up for the day of boating. That is a good laugh that I needed. Do you turn the blower on when idling? No wake speed? No, it's just when you're giving it that spark, because you're sparking it to ignite, get that first ignition. But you don't need to run. You can. Here's what I told people when I delivered boats to first time boaters is you cannot overrun your blower. If you feel more comfortable leaving your blower running all day long, that blower is $250 to replace, and it's a simple job. If that makes you feel better, but you absolutely have to, without fail, run it every time you start that boat, from here to eternity. I don't care if it's a brand new, right out of the box boat or if it's 30 years old. You have to run that blower 3 to 5 minutes before you start it. And if you fuel up, if you're fueling, leave the blower off, fuel up. When you're done fueling, hang it up, turn on your blower. And I'll even, depending on the boat I'm on, I'll even open the engine compartment and just let the wind go, that breeze take it out, and the blower blowing it out. And but every single time, but I never ever run it at idle no wake, because you've already done the most dangerous thing, which is spark. That's the most dangerous thing. That time that you turn the key is the time where the explosion will happen. No, not JMA, not on the shutoff, but every time you go to restart it. So 3 to 5 minutes every time before you restart that engine. And I'm going to run it 5 minutes on that time where I crank it off. And then we decide, we need to move. We got blown off where we want to anchor, and I need to crank it up again. There's been no time for the breeze to get any of those fumes out. And we've been running, we turned it off, and then we're going to crank it again. That's the time I let it run for the longer period, for at least 5 minutes, because that's most likely the fumes are still in there. But just get in the habit of running your blower all the time when you start the engine. Once you're running, then it's not necessary. Yeah, Matt, you just do me a favor and run it all the time. Okay. All right. So we're coming up on an hour and 44 minutes here. I'm going to start wrapping it up here. Ed, welcome. Good to have you. Rev, by the way, this is my first time in your live. Been a subscriber 7 years. Wanted to thank you for all your informative videos. Yes, you are very welcome, Rev. Glad to have you here, and glad that that you're getting value and maybe even a little bit of entertainment. Please, I really want to work on boats. I can work with my hands. From Nigeria. I'm 23 years old. Well, just start working. Get out there and start working on boats. You can, Callum Boss Prince, if you want to send me a message on a YouTube video, just leave your comment there and I'll communicate with you there. I read almost everything and I respond to almost every question if I can. Any thoughts on a 1990 Wellcraft? It's around $50K. Again, we talked about this with the 90 Mariner. That's a 33-year-old boat. So it's more about the condition of the specific 37 Corsica that you're looking at, how it's been maintained. Is it the original engines? Have they been rebuilt? Is it stern drive or inboard? What's the condition of that? Anthony, I would go watch my how to buy a used cruiser video if you haven't. It's probably 40 minutes long, and just go to Boat Buyer Secret Weapon channel, type in used cruiser, and you'll get a video that will be an outstanding starting place to start your search for the type of boat you're looking for. Pros and cons of that style of boat, what to look for, because those systems are so complicated. You got air conditioning, you've got plumbing, you've got a generator, you've got the engines, you've got a head, you've got a microwave and a galley, and you've got a stove, probably an alcohol stove on that age. You've got potential for water intrusion on on any of your hatches and port lights. You got to make sure that boat hasn't taken on water and have mold and mildew in it. There's a lot of stuff that you need to check, and that video will be a valuable part. What name on the side? I wouldn't know. It's a Barletta. My Bennington QX is so distinctive with the 92 octane. 400 gets me 50 plus, which I use more than I thought. Maybe my subscriber base runs more wide open throttle than others do, but that's awesome. It's like a limo ride, carves and banks like a V-haul. Yeah, your sustainability is exactly right. That Q, that Bennington Q has a very distinctive look with the arch. And the lines of the fiberglass that they do on the nose. Barletta this year came out with, what are they calling it? Barletta pontoon. The Reserve. The Reserve line, they're going for a little bit more distinctive. But just like I said, is when you're comparing, it's really there's such a small difference in there. And then it also is going to depend on, like that Q, when you put that fiberglass on it, you get a little bit more rigidity of the structure of the boat, but you also get a little bit more weight, which gives sustainability, that limo-like ride. Now, I think yours is a 25, which again, you've got more buoyancy, you've got more structural support across the length, and that impacts it as well. So all of those things come into play. But yeah, I still stand behind the Barletta having a more solid ride. But again, the models vary. The models vary in a couple different ways. Just purchased a Chaparral 276 stern drive. Can we wake with this type of boat? I assume you mean wake surf. And JMA, I wouldn't, unless it's the reverse facing drive. So if you've got the reverse drive, that surf drive, then surf all day long. If it is a stern drive, well, propeller. You got the propeller right under the boat facing the rider. You may have a swim platform that covers it, but here's the problem. If you get on your front foot when you're surfing, that's going to accelerate you. And because you surf at such a slow speed, 10, 11, 12 miles an hour, maybe, you can get going 15 miles an hour. And if you fall and you hit, well, that can propel you down towards those blades, which are, on that boat, you got 6 blades that are spinning around that will slice you up if you touch them. And so it's, to me, yeah, you probably can. And, 95 times out of 100, you're fine. But those 5 times you're dead. So is it worth it? I don't think so. But it's I wouldn't. It would be my answer unless you have the Volvo reverse facing drive, or the Mercruiser reverse drive that I think they just came out with it this year. So, Tony, welcome. Good to have you. Corey, have a great night. Stay safe. Good to have you, Corey. Thanks for coming back to join us. Those that got my daughter's view of the lake, and then we lost sound and everything went to hell. So, all right, guys, it's been almost 2 hours here. Happy Father's Day to everybody. And thank you for supporting the channel, being a part of it, we had some really, really good questions today, and some good conversation, some laughs, for sure. And we'll see you guys all next week. Take care, everybody.